Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum. I'm here to talk about publishing, marketing, and everything having to do with the business of being an author. We do come on live every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can join us by visiting newshelves.com/FAF, or you can write in your questions to info at newshelves.com. We do hold those, answer them online, and then you can see the replay on YouTube, which is simply youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. So we've got some questions that are already been emailed in. We've got some questions live today. So it looks like it's going to be a busy one. So let's jump right in. Heather is asking author's phone number for Facebook. So Facebook does often ask, especially on a business page, for a phone number. Now, it is really important to realize that there's an option to make that private. So sometimes they will require a phone number, but that is more for account security. So you can put that in and make it private, which means that no one can see it. Now, if maybe you do want a number that can be publicly found, I personally would recommend that you get something like a Google number, a Skype number, something that is internet based, that is not your full-time phone number. I will tell you that I have my personal cell phone, and then I have New Shelves phone, which is actually like an actual line that we've had for years. That New Shelves line, when I say I get upwards of 20 spam calls a day, I am not kidding. I don't even answer the phone. People who work with me know you can text me, or if you leave a voicemail, most of the time it says, hey, email me, because that phone just gets blown up so much. So I don't personally recommend that you put your personal phone out there, but a Skype phone number, a Google phone number, something like that would be an option that you could consider if you want to make it public. Although I will also say, unless you're pitching directly to an agent or you're trying to work with someone directly, I don't think there's really a reason for an author to put a public phone number out there. I'm not looking up Lee Child's phone number or Sarah J. Maas's phone number. Like, that's just not a thing. Now, email, sure, but having an actual phone number public for an author, I don't think is a necessity. And I personally would probably choose not to do that. Yes, if you have an iPhone, you can restrict calls to people in your address book. You can also, they have like a spam thing where it sends people directly to voicemail if they think it might be spam. Um, and then Walt saying he has his office phone on LinkedIn, but only one person has ever seen it. You have to dig for a phone number on LinkedIn. So I think the overall consensus is you don't really need it for just like your website or your social media. Now you may have to link your phone as a way to, most of the time when if a social media outlet, KDP, something like that needs it, most of the time they're doing it because they want to do double verification when you log in, and that's why they're using it. But that does not mean, again, that it has to go public. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. I have an Amazon ads dashboard question. I have paused some ads, but how do I delete them all together? Too much clutter. Is it possible? That is a good question. No, you cannot delete those old ads. So that is one of the pains about having a lot of ads, especially if you do Brian Cohen's method, where you do a ton of ads, is they kind of do sit on your dashboard and clutter up, especially if you pause them. So if you pause them, when you go to filter and you filter for enabled or active ads, the problem is that it considers those pause ads active, which is why most of the time, if I want to help get rid of some of that clutter, what I personally like to do is I like to, rather than pausing those ads, I make those ads end today so that they will actually end, which means that you can then filter for active or I think it's enabled is what they call it, but you can filter for enabled ads, and that will only show you the ads you're currently running. So that is what I would do. And it's super obnoxious because you just want to pause the ad, but that just doesn't work with our filter system as well. And of course you can, if you really wanted to get in there, you could make ad sets and different things like that for organization. Just depends on how much time you want to put into that and how messy it really is, and what you need to do to make your life easier long term. Barbara, I am co-authoring a book and a self-publisher. My company account is on Amazon Advantage and I am paid monthly for book sales. What is the best way to share the profits with my co-author? Can Amazon break money to two authors or do I need to pay him? So for Amazon or KDP specifically, they don't have a split payment option. So you would need to do a royalty statement where you're actually splitting profits. I would recommend before you publish, you've got something in writing about what each author is owed. What comes out of that does any, publishing expenses or any expenses come out of that? Is it simply a split? But then you would need to keep track of that, especially for tax purposes and all those things. Now, if you are specifically using an ebook on draft to digital, and draft to digital, I do have some authors who have published an ebook only. They didn't do a print book, it was just an ebook. And even though they have market control and they make more profit straight on Amazon through KDP, they have chosen to actually publish their book through draft to digital and send that to Amazon for the ebook because draft to digital does allow like joint owners or profit share. So that might be an option for you. But if you're doing a print book and you're doing KDP or Ingram Spark, then you really do have to just split royalties. And again, having a very simple agreement or contract in place of how royalties are split, when they're paid out. What happens if there is a case of returns or something like that? Are royalties paid by the month? Also knowing that KDP pays 60 days in arrears, Ingram Spark pays 90 days in arrears. So what schedule are you going to have when you're paying out your co-author would be things that you would want to consider just like a publisher would. I received an email offering 100 euros in credit for a sponsored product campaign on Amazon when you set no end date. Is there a catch and why euros? I wonder, maybe other authors have seen this offer too. So I would be very careful, number one, to make sure this is not a spam email. Make very, very sure. The way you can make sure usually is if you go into your Amazon ad account, you'll have a notification with that on there. With that said, Amazon will sometimes offer ad credit if you go and start an ad on their platform. However, typically there are some rules around that. For example, with no end date. So what they're probably hoping is that you will set up an ad in a different country, something like that, that you'll set it with no end date and you will forget about it. What will end up happening is then you will continue running ads and they will make money over the long term. There have been times when I've received an offer of ad credit on my Amazon ad account where it said get $100 free, but only if I spent $500 in a month or 2-month period, something like that. So usually the catch is that it is their way, just like any coupon. Think about it. Like when a buy one, get one free, you're thinking someone's going, well, they're losing money. No, they're not. They're getting you in their store and then you're going to buy something else, or they're making that sale. So yes, it is a marketing tactic to try to sell more ads. You can benefit from it if you're smart about it, but you definitely have to read the fine print. And if it's something like, hey, you have to set this with no end date, for how long? Is there a minimum spend? Because maybe they say 100 euros in credit, but you have to spend 1,000, or you have to spend 100 euros within a month. So make sure you're reading that fine print and making sure that it's actually beneficial to you and it's something you want to do and keep up with. Can I use the same ISBN for my ebook on draft to digital as I did on my Kindle ebook? You sure can. So when you're assigning out ISBNs, you need one ISBN per format. So if you have an ebook ISBN that can be used on Kindle, that can be used on ebook or draft to digital, Ingram Spark, you can use that one everywhere. Now, if you are doing a print book, same thing. If you have a paperback, one ISBN for your trade paperback. The thing you do need to be aware of is that some places don't play nice. So that one ISBN can be uploaded to KDP and to Ingram Spark. For anyone trying to use Barnes & Noble Press, Barnes & Noble Press says, we want our own ISBN, which actually is not great for your metadata. It's harder to track sales, and it's why I personally recommend not to use Barnes & Noble Press most of the time. So you're supposed to be able to use it everywhere. But again, some places just don't play nice. The other thing that I've seen just recently is that with these ISBN, so we know that KDP has just allowed you to schedule a release. So at first, people were very confused. They thought that you could set a pre-order for a print book on KDP, and that's not the case. You can set a scheduled release on KDP now, but there are some catches here. So the idea is that you could schedule a release and then you could order your author copies before the book goes live. However, there's a couple of catches there. If your book was also uploaded, so you upload to KDP for a scheduled release, and you upload your book to Ingram Spark for a pre-order, they will not let you order author copies from KDP because your book was also uploaded and is on pre-order from Ingram Spark. They're not playing nice. If you upload your book to KDP and you have, I think it's 10 days, you're still 10 days out from your launch and your book is approved, then you can order proof copies or Amazon copies that don't have the proof bar as long as it's not on Ingram Spark. But if you are uploading for a KDP scheduled release and it's too close to the time, so it locks out 5 days prior to your launch, and then they take a couple days for approval. It takes longer than a normal KDP book to go live on Amazon. So let's say your book comes out in 10 days and you upload it to KDP. By the time they get through their approval process, you're usually in the lockout window and then you can't order those print copies anyway. So this is just one fine example of how KDP is rolling out new things, mainly the scheduled release, which is supposed to make releasing a book less stressful. You don't have to push the publish button on that day, but it's got a lot of kind of rules around it, things that were not very clear in the beginning that they still seem to be figuring out. So I still think the scheduled release feature can be useful. However, I think that there are a lot of nuances that it's not as simple or easy as it was first explained to be. So just know those certain things. If you wanted print copies from Amazon without the bar, you can't have it uploaded to Ingram Spark and get those before your launch. And then that it does have a lockout period where you can't change anything. So all in the details. I think that's the theme for today here. Let's see. I've heard you, whoops, it moved. Also, I know I've heard you mention, but can't find my notes. Best way to create an EPUB file for draft to digital. So draft to digital, you can create an EPUB file, but you can also use a Word document and have draft to digital auto format it for you. You do have to take a little bit more care to make sure that that file is up to standard, but it is available. Let me find it because I have a YouTube video. So again, if you're not subscribed to the New Shelves YouTube, go over to youtube.com, New Shelves Books, and subscribe because we do have tutorials. Like this one is how to convert a Word document to an ebook with draft to digital for free. So I'm going to grab that link and I will drop it over here in the chat for you. Here we go. And then for anyone, of course, watching on Facebook or the replay, just go to the YouTube channel, search draft to digital, all one word, D-R-A-F-T, the number 2, digital, and it will pull up as a video for you in the how-to section. Let's see, KDP is much cheaper per copy than Ingram. Is there a good short run printer that's cheaper than KDP? Yeah, so KDP is typically cheaper per copy than Ingram Spark for author copies, and they do tend to ship quicker. So just depending on your preferences. As far as going cheaper than KDP, I wouldn't say really for short print runs. If you're printing upwards of 100 copies, sometimes a local printer or something like Book Vault will be cheaper with better quality or better quality and the same cost. But if you're doing just a copy or two, KDP is probably the cheapest to get your author copies, I would say. Let's see. Oh, if you're trying to create an ebook for a children's storybook, I will say that's tricky because typically that means you've got illustrations, which means you may need fixed formatting, Heather. So I would say if you're trying to do that, you probably want to invest in a program like Atticus or Vellum or work with an ebook formatter. I will say that ebooks with a lot of images can be a little bit tricky. I personally don't like I don't like to do them. So just know that you can try it on draft to digital, but it's probably not going to be the smoothest option for you. Same thing, you can upload a Word document file to KDP for Kindle, but when you've got images in there, it doesn't necessarily convert very easily to an ebook. Let's see. If I am changing the book cover of a book, will I need a new ISBN? The title and subtitle is the same. Technically, Vicky, no, you do not need a new ISBN. Technically, in the self-publishing world, you can switch out a book cover as long as this title and subtitle are the same. And if the book cover is very similar and just has nuanced changes, I think you can get away with it, no problem. However, if your book has sold widely, if it's sold a lot of copies, if you're changing it drastically, I would suggest a new ISBN because it will look different. It will have a different marketing feel, and that's kind of an opportunity to remarket and to resell that book. So it really just depends on the specifics and the nuances of what that change will be. Now, if we're talking about traditional publishing and they were going to put out a new book cover altogether, they would do a new ISBN, but technically you can get away without doing a new ISBN, especially with print on demand. All right, let's hop over to some of our emailed questions. See. Richard had a question about BookBub ads and if I think they're worth it. So here's the thing with BookBub ads, I do not personally think that they are effective or cost effective in most cases. So I'm not talking about a featured deal. I think that when you pitch your book to BookBub, for a discount or a feature deal, and then it gets mailed out to their thousands upon thousands of subscribers for a discount ebook, that's magic. Highly recommended. However, if we're talking about just BookBub ads, where you're going onto their ad dashboard and paying for ads, I don't usually recommend it. And here's why. BookBub ads tend to cost quite a bit of money with a smaller reach. So you're supposed to be able to target pretty well, but it's a smaller reach. It costs more money. And these subscribers are really trained to expect and only want discount books. So BookBub will even said they've put out articles saying that if you're running ads through their platform, you're really only going to get a great worthwhile response with free or 99-cent ebooks, that your conversion rate drops drastically at 199, and anything above 199 it's like negligible. So I think that unless you're doing a discount ebook deal anyway, I definitely would not be running BookBub ads. But the other thing is just the cost compared to the conversion tends to be lower. Now, with that said, there are some reasons why you might want to run BookBub ads. For example, if you really want to work on training Amazon's algorithms to link your book with other titles. So you really want to link tightly to your comp authors so you show up as the also bought or recommended because you bought. You can use BookBub ads to really highly target that. So for example, Richard, your book is Paleolithic historical fiction, and we know that a great comp for you is Jean Yule. So we could run BookBub ads for you that specifically target Jean Yule. So we're trying to get readers of Jean Yule specifically to buy your book. And even if it costs more than we're making in profits, that's got a ultimate purpose of linking your book and showing your book in the long term to more Jean Yule fans on Amazon. Other book outlets like Barnes and Noble and Apple as well, but mainly Amazon. So there are reasons to do BookBub ads, even though the actual ads might run at a loss, but you have to really be strategic about it. Amazon or BookBub ads are not something that I recommend for everyone all the time. It's a money pit. I would much rather see an author advertise directly on Amazon, to go to Facebook or Instagram. I think you get more for your money there in the long term. So if it's a strategy as far as pushing metadata and also bots and linking on BookBub, especially with a book launch or something like that, sure. But all the time, no, I don't recommend it. I do, however, always recommend that you consider pitching your books to BookBub for a featured deal. You do have to pay to be, well, first you have to apply. You have to apply, and they like to play hard to get. So they may not accept your book. I've had some books that are selling well, that have great reviews, that still don't get it accepted. And then I've had books that get accepted every time, even though they don't have as many reviews. So it just depends on their editorial team. But absolutely, I think trying to get a BookBub featured deal is worth it. You do have to pay for that. So even once you are chosen and they tell you, yep, we're going to include your book, then after that, you still have to pay for the fee. And that can range anywhere from a couple $100 to, I think the highest is right at $2,000. Now, I will say that not every time, I would say 2/3 of the times when I have had clients reach things like USA Today bestseller and things like that, they have done it with a BookBub featured deal. So you get a lot of sales, a lot of exposure, and that's why I think it's worth it. The other thing on BookBub, of course, is that they also own Chirp Books, and Chirp Books is the audiobook version of BookBub. So I do highly recommend that you consider Chirp Books if you have a book up on draft to digital or it's wide distribution, not just Audible. And that is a discount deal, much like the BookBub featured deal. However, with Chirp Books, the difference here is that you submit to Chirp, they still have to accept your book. However, you don't pay them any outright fee. You do make less in royalties because you discount your book, and then they take a percentage. I believe it's 10% of royalties they take. And that's their fee. But that's just based on what you sell. You're not paying fees up front, and the exposure has been incredible with Chirp deals. So that's what I would recommend from BookBub more than anything else. And it's called Chirp, like a bird chirps, CHIRP books. So chirpbooks.com. And so that's for audiobooks only, though. That would not be for ebooks. Drop that. And if you're an audiobook listener, look, let me give them a little plug. If you are an audiobook listener, I really like Chirp Books. It's got an app where you can listen to, you can buy full price books, but you can also buy discount books and get emails for discount books. Their discount books have to be $4.99 or less typically if they're being emailed out. So that can be an affordable way to listen to audiobooks if you listen to a ton. If you've been around for a while, you know my husband goes through audiobooks like it's freaking his favorite cereal. He drives a lot for work, and so it's not unusual for him to go through 1 or 2 audiobooks in a week. So even a subscription model for him doesn't really work. And so Chirp Books is how we keep him in audiobooks without using our entire grocery budget every month on it. So I really like Chirp Books, and I know other people do as well. And the idea with a lot of books is not only a ton of exposure when you do it, but if you have other books in a series, or if you have other books on Audible, if people really liked your writing, they may go buy that book full price. Yeah, now just to be aware, if your audiobook is ACX exclusive, if it's only available exclusively from Audible and iTunes with an ACX exclusive, it will not be eligible for Chirp Books because it has to be wide. So that's important to know. Let's see, is EPUB the format used for ebooks? If so, I have another question about the image reformatting difficulties, which you mentioned earlier. So yes, EPUB is the format for ebooks. And let's see, do these issues occur when uploading image-rich PDFs? I have a PDF file conversion process, which has proven reliable so far, but I've never uploaded anything to an author platform. So yes, image-rich PDFs can have problems when converting to an EPUB. Now, if you are using formatting software and you know what you're doing, you can do a beautiful EPUB with a lot of imaging. However, if you are trying to use an auto converter like a Word document to draft to digital, or if you don't know what you're doing, it can be really messy and it can look sloppy. You can end up having an image like there with text overlaying it awkwardly or to the side. It can just get messy. So try it. You might get lucky, but if you are experience problems and your EPUBs are not turning out like you want them to, just know it's probably because you have so many images. So it's not just you. There are more experienced, smarter people than me out there who can either format it for you, or I'm sure have YouTube trainings and things like that on how to format it. That is just not my personal wheelhouse, which is why I said I don't personally do those. I don't do EPUB files with images. That's something that I work with a designer on, or the author works somewhere else for them. All right. Oh, cool. All right. I had another question that I wanted to. All right. The question here. Let's pull up the drama about AI because it's coming, you guys. A question we have here is about KDP just made an announcement that they are playing with virtual voice narration. So KDP is now, they have invited some authors to test creating audiobooks through what they're calling virtual voice. It's AI voice. So those titles are supposedly going to be clearly labeled. That's like their words, clearly labeled for customers when they go up for sale, I'm assuming on Audible. And this is a beta process that they are planning to invite authors from KDP to create these AI generated audiobooks, and it will become more widely available over time. They're supposed to be clearly marked in the sales market that they are AI. Now, this is not new though. You guys may remember that I think it was last year. I think it was last year. It's been a long time that Apple actually started AI narration months ago. I mean, months ago, Apple started narration. In fact, Draft to Digital does have a submission process for certain titles and certain genres to be submitted to Apple Books to have your book narrated with AI. And I told you guys, if you go on to Apple Books and you search AI narrated audiobook, it will pull some books up. Go have a listen. They are not flawless, but they are pretty darn good. What they have done is they have specific voices for different genres. I did download one months ago. I downloaded it and I listened to it, and as I said, it was pretty good. It did not sound very robotic. Now, where I did see problems, which I imagine that people in AI and people who are creating these things are working on, is that sometimes the narrator's voice, like if it was going from male to female, it didn't necessarily catch that, and it kept the same tone instead of going higher or lower. So it could be confusing when listening to the audiobook who was speaking. Or there were times where sometimes, I'm not kidding you guys, it had inflection for, if someone's excited, it got excited. And if it was sad, they got kind of sad. And this was kind of happening in the audiobook, which was very interesting. Again, it was not flawless though, where sometimes there would be that excited voice when someone was actually saying something sad. So some of the inflection and the changes from character to character, because it was a single person, it's not dual narration. It was the one I listened to, I sampled a bunch, but the one that I listened to all the way through had a female narrator, and that female narrator did both the male and female parts. KDP is essentially just doing their own version of that. They were not going to be left behind. Now, thus far, Audible has not allowed or sold digitally created or AI audiobooks. That has been their process so far. And honestly, why would they? If they aren't making any money on it, which they haven't been, because this has kind of been pioneered by Apple thus far. Google Voice has some that aren't nearly as good, but Apple is kind of been doing this for a while. So why would Audible allow them to sell their books on their platform when Audible didn't quite have that set up for their own system to make the money on it? That's my opinion. So I think that it's very interesting. Now, how much will it cost? Will it cost anything, or will it simply be, you can have KDP's AI system read your audiobook and put it up for sale, and you don't pay anything, but it has to be exclusive to them, because that's how AI or ACX exclusive right now works, is that you're locked into a 7-year exclusive contract. So I do guess, and we don't know enough about it yet, but I am guessing that that's probably what it would be, is that you'd be able to use their software. They wouldn't necessarily charge you for it. Of course, they would earn their royalties from it, but I would imagine that that audiobook would have to be exclusive through Audible and through Amazon, at least for a set amount of period. So it's really too soon to know all the details about it. As I said, it's in beta testing, um, but it's there and it's coming and it's not going away. And we talked about that not that long ago with Jade Jacobson, is that AI is here and it's going to keep working, and it's going to affect the audiobook industry, but it's going to affect the publishing industry as well. So I don't think it's going anywhere. Some are better than others for AI. I think some people will always prefer human narrators, but it's going to be much less expensive than human narrators. So we'll keep our eye on it. It's not available everywhere yet. We don't know how the market will react. I think that will really be the test, is when this is widely available on the market. Does the average listener go and say, I don't want that book because it's AI narrated, or that's not my preference, or do they not care? And we don't have enough audiobooks created with a virtual voice or AI to really know that yet. So kind of just in that period of unsure, but it's coming, and I'll keep you up to date as I learn more. And absolutely, it's going to hurt the voiceover business and voice artists. We did talk about how, with progress with AI specifically, what's going to happen, what's happened with all progress as we had technology and computers. What happened is, yeah, some jobs they become obsolete as computers kind of take over them. It does in many ways create new jobs. But for the artists, I think that is sad. It's a sad kind of comfort that great new jobs are being made, but not the job that they love, that they have trained for, that they have worked in. So there might be different opportunities, but not what they've trained for. And I think that will be a difficult change. And we'll see. Again, I think ultimately we can create with AI and with computers as much as we want, but ultimately it comes up to consumer behaviors. And do consumers buy more audiobooks that have been human narrated, or do they not care, and do they go for the cheaper option? And I think that's going to drive the market in the long term, but it will certainly affect creators just like other things in computers and AI have. So again, we'll keep an eye on that and keep you updated as we learn more. When was the last time I used a typewriter? Well, David, let me tell you. I did actually play on a typewriter about 2 weeks ago at the thrift store, but I didn't actually use it. So, yes. Yeah, although I do know some people that have keyboards that mimic a typewriter. So, nostalgia is real. We'll see. Is it easy to get the templates from Ingram and draft to digital for my book cover, people? Absolutely. If you go to, I've not done a draft to digital cover, but I'm sure you can easily find that. But for Ingram Spark, you just go to the Ingram Spark template generator. Template generator. I will even pull it up for you. Yep. So you just go to the Ingram Spark cover template generator. It's pretty easy. You do need to know the specs for your book cover. I think that's the most important thing you need to know. I'm going to drop it in the chat here. This is the template generator, very easy to use. Now, the things you do need to know is that you will need to know, your page count. You will need to know your trim size and all that good stuff. So let me share my screen for a minute here. All right. Excuse me. All right, so here's the Ingram Spark cover template generator. So if you're having a cover created for your book and you need to pull a template, this is free. It is specifically for Ingram Spark. So do know this will not work for KDP. This will not work to draft to digital. You need to really do it for each place and format. So you will need your ISBN to be able to put in here, or I'll tell you a little trick. You actually do not have to have your ISBN. If you type in like 978 and then 10 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to do something different. Okay. So this is like a placeholder, and that's fine. Now, if you want a price specific barcode on your book, you do need your ISBN. But if you're not trying to do that, or you're just trying to get the template, you can fudge it a little bit. But then you need to know your trim size, which is very specific. You need to know the file type. So I always do this as a PDF. Your cover designer may want an InDesign file. And then, oh, they must already have something here. Let's do it. Let's do a 5x8, and then it drops down and gives you options. So 5x8, you need to know, is it black and white or it's color? It's black and white. Need to know what your page, if you're going for cream or white. So typically nonfiction is going to be white, fiction is going to be cream. Groundwood is like a thinner cream paper that is most often seen in like mass market paperbacks. So most people would be, let's say it's a fiction book, you'd be doing cream. You have to know your binding type. Are you doing paperback or hardback? If you're doing paperback, you're going to do perfect bound. It's kind of obvious. If you're doing hardback though, then you need to know, like, are you doing a jacket? Are you doing, there's more questions that you need to know. You need to know if you'd like a matte or glossy finish. I'm going to say glossy. Then duplex enabled, which is printing on the other side. The options, no, you need to know your page count. And then let's just do a random page count, which of course has to be even numbers. And then file type. So your designer may want an InDesign file. They may want a PDF file. So I usually pull a PDF because that's what I can open, but you should ask your designer what they would like. And then you put your email address in there so they can send it to you. And this is if you want a price specific barcode, you would put your price right in here. You would choose your currency, and then you choose whether or not you'd like your price and your barcode. You submit. Within 5 to 10 minutes, you get emailed a template for your book cover. Now, if you are doing KDP, you would need to go to the KDP book cover template. There we go. So you can do this same thing. You have to be able to answer all these questions. And then they give you like a file to download that has the template on it. I haven't done draft to digital. I imagine that's probably the same. However, I do hope you know that if you are planning to upload your print book to draft to digital, that would take place of Ingram Spark, because all draft to digital does when you upload to draft to digital, they take your book and they upload it to Ingram Spark. They're literally printing at the Ingram Spark facilities. So you wouldn't do both. You would either do Ingram Spark or draft to digital for your print book. See? I'm sure it's over here. So you can go find that. Google is our friend. So hopefully that helps. I know that was a bit of a crash course, but that's how you can get all those templates. And let me see. I have a couple more questions I wanted to try to get to. Catherine's asking, I have a lot of questions about the best way to approach the media when promoting a new book. I've done research, but I'm still unclear about this. Some people still recommend sending a press release announcing your new book, while others say that press releases are no longer effective because the media will not care that you have a new book coming out. Another idea I've heard is to pitch them a story idea, like maybe an idea for an article pulled from your book, but would you still send them a press release in addition to that story idea? Does it have to be a unique article idea for each news outlet, or could I send the same article pitch to multiple outlets? All right, Catherine, you loaded up those questions. I love it. Let's see if we can pick these apart a little bit. So the first question was about press releases, and I think press releases can still be effective, but maybe not for the same reasons they used to be. Press releases can still be effective as a way to get SEO for your book title, and your name. Because if you're doing a press release, now writing the press release is just step one. Step two is actually distributing that press release so that it gets reprinted and reissued throughout the internet, which can really help with your SEO. And so for that reason, I do think that it can be a smart idea to do a press release for your book. It also is something that when you have a press release, you then can send that on to local newspapers with some adjustments and things like that. So I actually have on New Shelves, I'm going to drop the link, but for anyone watching the replay, go to newshelves.com, go to our blog, and you will see press release tips for authors. It is a blog that talks about how to write a press release, why you would want a press release, and I also have a free book release template. So go grab that for yourself for free. And yes, so you would then use an aggregator to send this out everywhere for syndication. Now here's the thing. Your book launching is not news. You've got to create news around it. Tie it into a holiday, tie it into you being a local author, and send it to your local um, uh, outlets. Vicky just reached 10,000 copies sold of her book series. And so we did a press release for local news outlets that talked about, local author sells 10,000 copies. So you have to have something beyond just, I have a book and it's coming out. Tie it into a holiday, tie it into news, tie it into an event, tie it into something that is news. So that is what I would say for that. Now, I will say that when you're pitching it to local outlets, I typically pitch this as, I am, let's say it's local. I always say start local. It's your warmest market. So I would say I'm a local author. I have recently released a book that is set in our hometown, and, I'm attaching a press release. I would love if you would consider running this. I'm also available for interviews, or I can send you a copy of the book for a review. So in that way, you're giving them three options. You can just reprint the press release I've already written for you. Easy peasy, easy news. You could take this press release, and if you'd like to do an interview or a piece on me, I'm available. Or if you'd like a copy of my book for a review for your art section, we can do that. So that is one way to do press releases. And I will say that's probably the easiest way to do press releases. Write one that can go out to the world, and work with a aggregator to distribute it, like EIN press release or 24/7 press release. It's all in that blog. I have some options for you with pricing. So send it out everywhere, get your SEO up, and then take that press release, alter it slightly for local markets. Or, for example, I grew up in Virginia Beach. I could easily alter that for that area and say, Virginia Beach native does XYZ. So go to your warm markets and do it that way. By doing this, that makes it really easy. Now, as far as pitching stories, yes, offering to create content is a huge boon. If you want people to really pay attention to your book, this is not just an announcement of your book. This is you offering to create content for them, which helps them out, which makes you more appealing. If you're going to pitch a story, you need to pitch that story to one media outlet. I'm sorry, but it's true. My suggestion would be is that you have at least 3 to 4 stories that you can, or article ideas that you can write based on the information in your book. And I would recommend that you pitch those out and either pitch just one idea to each outlet based on what you know of that outlet. So maybe you have 4 story ideas. You're going to pitch to 4 different outlets, but one with each story. Or you can say, all right, this is my number one outlet. I really want to get in here. So you pitch them with all 4 story ideas, and then you give them a week or two. You can even follow up once. If they don't respond, you go to the next outlet. But most outlets do require and want original content. They do not want something that's being posted multiple places. So I don't recommend that you try that. Um, so those are kind of the two easy ways. Now, I will say again, having one press release and pitching yourself for interviews and reviews, a lot less time consuming. You will get less response though. Having article ideas where you are pitching, but you have to be willing. If they come back and say, sure, I would love 1,500 words by Friday, you have to be willing and able to do that. If not, if you're not willing or able to do the work, don't pitch it. You will burn bridges. So, but that's a sexier proposition. You will get more response. You are more likely to get people saying, yeah, let's collaborate. Now, a great place for this to find ways to pitch ideas or to be featured as an expert is something called Haro or Help a Reporter Out. It is a online platform where people who are writing stories will actually put up requests like, I need to talk to a dermatologist who specializes in XYZ, or looking for organizers who can comment on this. So if you have a book about organizing, you can then comment, you can pitch them your comment. And if it's included in the article, it usually includes, Keri Barnum, author of whatever it is, says, and then they would quote me. So that's a way to kind of get yourself in the news a little bit there. So that can be helpful. And yes, how did Britney Spears sell so many copies of her memoir? That is a great question, David. So Britney Spears, as we know, has recently released her memoir. Let me pull the numbers for you because it's crazy. She has sold 400,000 hardcovers and 1.1 million units of her book. And how did she sell that many? Well, it's not a big deal. All you have to do is be an international pop star. Having a breakdown, shaving your head definitely helps. And then essentially being connected to a bunch of celebrities. So not a big deal. Just get working on that whole famous thing. When you get famous, be sure to remember me. You can even write bad things about me. I mean, there's no bad press, right? But really, this is what we're seeing in memoir. We saw it with Spare and Prince Harry as well. The same thing is that people are fascinated by celebrities, and a celebrity that they've been following for years. I mean, literally, Britney Spears, the last 20 years has been in the public eye. And if she's going to tell you that she's going to talk about what went behind the scenes when you saw this in the tabloids or this or that, or her relationship with Justin Timberlake, of course, people are going to buy it. So I think this is one of those cases. It's important to realize that this sold because of the celebrity. The celebrity had juicy gossip to share, and that is why it sold. That is why, in some cases, like Kim Kardashian's memoir did not sell as well. You know why? Because she already shared all the details. People didn't care as much. But when there's something we don't know, we want to be in the end, people buy it. So it's crazy. Let's see. Kevin's asking, are Ingram placeholder ISBNs tied to a trim size? Yeah, so if you're creating a template generator and sometimes you're just trying to use a placeholder ISBN, sometimes it'll actually pop up. So if a book's already in Ingram Spark, it will auto-generate that trim size and all that information. And it doesn't work, which is why I went with the 978 and a bunch of zeros, because I've used that one before and I know it happens to not be tied to anything. But yes, good question. All right. So we got Catherine's question. The last thing here is a question from Susan about what in the world does New Shelf do? I ask myself that sometimes. As far as what New Shelves does, we really focus on helping authors put out professional books that will market well, and then we help you launch and market them. So we do work with authors who have yet to publish, who really need an eye from a professional to know if their books will stand up in the marketplace. So we do work with some authors prior to publishing. We do not publish your book for you. We will work with you to publish your own book under your own imprint, but we are not a publisher. We do not publish books. We help you publish books. We also do help launch and market books. So whether you've got a trade publisher or you're an indie publisher, or you're working with a hybrid press, we help authors create strategy around their book marketing launch. We do offer some services like library mailings and bookstore mailings where we market for you. We also do some programs for Amazon ads and Facebook ads where we run programming for you. But where we really excel and what we really love to do is helping authors help themselves. So authors who realize that their book needs to be marketed and they need more strategy, they need someone to help train them so they know what to do. You are our people. If you are someone who says, hey, I've got a book, I want it to sell, but I don't want to do anything with it, that's probably not going to work well. And that stands for just about any company. It's not going to work well. If you're not willing to put in the time and effort to make your book successful, then even if you've got a lot of money, it doesn't usually work out well. So if you want to be a part of making your book successful, you're willing to learn and to have processes set up and learn strategy, absolutely give us a contact. This month and last month was actually crazy. We had some family sickness in my family that was ongoing. And then this month I've had 3 book launches this month in October, and I have 2 more coming up November 14th. So it has been a crazy time over with me personally in new shelves, but we are opening up our books for 2024. We already have a couple of books scheduled to promote and launch, but we are working with authors for that. So hopefully that answers your question there, and you can always reach out right at 11 o'clock. So I think we're good to jump off today. I will email you right now, Sheldon. All right. All right, everybody. I think we're good for this week. I'll be back. Oh, no, I don't think I will be back next week. So I will send out an email, but so you all know, next week I'll be at that Hampton Roads conference and it runs on Friday. I will be giving classes. I won't be here. So don't forget about me. We'll be back the week after, but I will not be here next Friday. Just so you know, I'll send out an email. Yes, we'll be back in a fortnight. I love the language. Great to see everybody. I'll see you in 2 weeks and have a great time until then. Bye-bye.